Hello and welcome to Sylvia's Kitchen. In today's episode, we are going to make a Heidelbeer Sahnetorte. It's a blueberry cream cake. For the first episode and for our first foray into baking, I was originally thinking I'm going to do something very easy like a marble cake or something like that. But I found some delicious organic blueberries in my fridge and I'd hate to have them go bad. So it's high time for us to use those up. And then I was thinking, what can I do with blueberries? So I consulted this awesome German baking book of mine and I flipped through the index and found this amazing Heidelbeer Sahnetorte. Doesn't it look great? So we're going to attempt to do that, and don't be afraid, it's actually much easier than it looks. The most difficult thing, however, is the work I've already done for you, which is the conversions from centimeters to inches and from grams to cups and from Celsius to Fahrenheit. I've already jotted all that down for you, so don't be afraid. To make this crust first, we're going to do a Mürbeteig. Now, Mürbeteig is basically a German short crust, and a Mürbeteig is used in so many different recipes. Any kind of pie, cake, Kuchen, you use Mürbeteig. So I think we should definitely attempt that. It's very easy to, it's a very basic crust. And we're going to start off with flour. Now this calls for 160 grams of flour. I got this amazing measuring cup, which has some German and some American measurements. I bought it at a German deli years ago in LA. I think it was German cold cuts in Woodland Hills. But this is the time of the internet, so don't be afraid. You can probably just Google it. It's extremely helpful. It shows you, and I got a lot of mileage out of it. The letters are already rubbed off. But you can see flour measures differently from sugar, and back here we have cups and ounces as well. So I measured 160 grams of flour. We'll put that in our mixing bowl. We need 40 grams of sugar. I actually looked at a conversion scale online, and 40 grams equals a third cup of sugar. So we'll put that in there as well. Then we'll need a pinch of salt. Not too much, just a little. And 1 egg yolk, and here is how you separate it. It's always a little tricky, but I crack it open, and I learned from my mom to use the shell, and I'm not doing a very good job here, to separate it. Hopefully it won't, I almost killed it. There you go, just the yolk. All right, and we can use the egg white for something else in the future. That got a little sticky there. So the last thing we need is 80 grams of butter. Now, first of all, I use a good Irish butter, and make sure you have this butter out for like an hour or two, so it's very soft. The conversion with the butter for me is a little bit more difficult, but I just looked at it. It's 227 grams, and we need 80 grams, so it's roughly about a third. So, you know, just put a third of that butter in here. We'll put that away. That's it. Excuse my nibbling. That's it for the ingredients. So hopefully you can see that here in the bowl. And all we're going to do now is make sure we got clean hands, and we're just going to mix this. And I do it all with my hands. I mix it in the bowl first, and you just knead it, you know, knead it good so that butter is gonna combine with the egg and the salt and the sugar. And you saw, it's only 40 grams of sugar. So the German recipes in general, in comparison to American cakes and pies, have very, very little sugar. We concentrate heavily on butter, on eggs, on flour, and a lot of times on heavy cream, which will be part of this recipe later. But obviously we have to do the crust first. So it doesn't look like it's sticky enough at this point. So I'm going to just add a little bit more butter. You can tell really, you know, when you're kneading it, does it stick together well or does it not? In this case, it was a little too crumbly. So if it's a little too crumbly, then add a little bit more butter. If it seems like it is, you know, too wet, you can always just add a little bit more flour. And I think we still need a little bit more butter. Excuse me. I want to make sure I don't overdo it with the butter. So just a little at a time. Now it's starting to stick a little better together. And you're just kneading it. I usually always do it in the bowl first, so you don't have that entire mess. Still too crumbly. Alrighty. And then I'm just gonna toss it on my working surface, because that way you can really get in there and knead it together better. Maybe that egg wasn't enough. I'm thinking maybe we need another egg yolk. That just doesn't seem to stick too well. And you see, you know, I've baked quite a bit, but even with me, not every time goes smoothly, and this is crumbling too much. So I'm going to add another egg yolk. All right. Where is my bowl? I have my bowl here. Hopefully this goes a little bit better. Oy, oy, oy. All right, we just want the yolk. We don't want all the white, and it doesn't want to separate very well. Come on, there you go. Oops. Alrighty, so let's see if that works better with an extra egg yolk. I think it's sticking more because just flour and butter and sugar is what you use for crumbles. And since this is crumbling too much, we'll just add more egg. And now it's starting to form. Now we can form it into an actual dough. Get some of this off your hands and work it in. Put some elbow grease in it. Alrighty. We're getting there. So like I said, you know, don't be afraid. You know, nothing is necessarily ruined if it doesn't work out right away. Just use your common sense. I'm gonna use all this because the wetness kind of sticks to my fingers, and we want to make sure later we have enough dough to cover our pan. And the pan is going to be a 26 centimeter pan, spring pan. And I have a set of 3 different sized spring pans, and the largest one is 10 inches. And 10 inches is 25 centimeters. I looked that up, don't be afraid. So it's just slightly shy of what I'm supposed to have in size, but that is what I have at home. So that's what we're gonna use. And again, knead this really good. It should end up in a ball. And we're getting there, we're getting to a ball. Alrighty. At this point, it still crumbles a bit, but what you do with a Mürbeteig, which is the crust, once you form the dough into a ball, you basically wrap it in saran wrap, and then you have to stick it in the fridge for an hour so that it goes together really well, and also so that you can roll it out better. because you have to roll it out and then it goes into the spring pan. I'm thinking too, I used a whole wheat flour, and you know, in Germany we have specific baking flours, and I probably should have used a white flour, but we're gonna make do with what we have at this point. Alrighty. You live and you learn. It's still gonna be, it's gonna be good still, but it might be a little bit more work, a little bit more sweat. And so I think this is ready now to be put in some plastic wrap. And then it will go in the fridge for an hour. All right, just put it in the fridge. And I'll see you again in an hour.